We're all about meeting people where they're at and sharing some love with them. So really at the end of the experience with us, no matter what kind of poem they get, no matter what topic they choose, the desired result is that they are holding a tiny artwork that shows them that they've been seen and that someone cares about them and that they are worthy of receiving a gift with no expectation in return.
My name is Alex Lewis, and you're listening to Words Matter, a podcast by Car Window Poetry. Every other Thursday, we invite you to hear from someone who's using words to make the world a better place. Today, I'm chatting with Haikuist Lisa Ann Markuson. She is the founder of Haiku Guys Gals, a team of 25 poets around the world who interact with people and write haikus for those people based on their interactions. I'm really excited for you to hear LA's story, so without further ado, let's jump into it. Here's my conversation with Lisa Ann Markuson. All right, I am here with my friend Lisa Ann. Lisa, welcome to the show.
Oh, hey, Alex. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. So, Lisa, I am honestly just meeting you, which I'm super excited about this. And I am a big fan of all the different things that you're up to and the hope that you're spreading into the world. But I know that for some people, this is like their actual first introduction to who you are. And so, Lisa Ann, who are you?
So I guess I am one of the world's only full-time professional typewriter haikuists. There's probably just me and one of my co-founders, Eric Samakoji, who are actually making this into a full-time job. And we have a company of performance poets that is all across America, Canada, and France. And yeah, we manage 27 poets, and we bring instant inspiration in the form of tiny poems written on demand to places where you wouldn't usually find poetry.
I love that. So first off, why haikus? To you, what is the power of this poetry format? I don't think I'm trying to think the last time that I specifically was I'm going to write a haiku today, maybe elementary school. And so for you guys, why haikus?
Well, actually, Western audiences have been sort of mesmerized by haiku for quite some time. E. Cummings was kind of the first Western poet who went to Japan and was really amazed by the format and started to try to write more English and European style haiku. So it's been kind of this under the radar interest of European and American poets for a long time. And Jack Kerouac was also a big haiku fan and wrote a whole book of American haiku, which are awesome and I highly recommend. Why we use haiku is because it is very approachable. It's something that's just exotic and mysterious enough that it's interesting without being daunting or feeling elitist or feeling overwhelming, Yeah. If we were writing sonnets, I think that we would have a lot less of a market. If we were working with some other more lengthy and intricate format, I think it would be something that people would lose their attention span. We want to bring poems to people that wouldn't go to the library and check out a book of poetry, someone who wouldn't go to a poetry show. So we're trying to give someone a little tasty poetry nugget. We work in high volume public areas and big parties. And so if we write haiku, which are only 17 syllables, we can write a whole hell of a lot more than we could if we were working with some longer format. Yeah. So we can write poems in, a minute or two or even less if inspiration strikes.
And so let's kind of go a little deeper into that, there are probably people who are listening to this podcast, and for them, poetry may not necessarily be their first language, if you will. And so let's have a quick educational moment. How would you describe what haikus are?
That's a really good point. I did not even consider the fact that some people might not even know what a haiku is. So We actually just wrote a book about haiku and how to write your own. It's called 102 Haiku. So for anyone that's listening and they are intrigued and want to try their hand at it, it's a really good like beginner's contemporary Western take on haiku to try your hand. But basically I'll go from ancient Japanese definition to like more modern definition.
Perfect.
The ancient Japanese form evolved from actual social poetry experiences as well. And it originally was a longer form of poetry that was 5-7-5-7-7 called tanka. Those are syllable counts. But then it was refined down about 1,000 years ago to 17 syllables on 3 lines. The ancient masters weren't as specific about if there had to be 5-7-5 so much as just like 17 total, 3 lines. And they also had a lot of thoughts and more subtle rules about natural references, referencing the seasons. And there was also a requirement to include what is called a cutting word in Japanese, basically, which means that there's a need to have the poem have a setup and then have a twist or a finale.
Okay.
So the 3 major rules are 17 syllables, seasonal reference, cutting word. Now in 2018, America and Western culture, we've sort of softened on the rules related to having a cutting word and having a seasonal reference, because we found we want to make a poem that's really going to resonate with a person standing in front of us. And unfortunately, many people are actually not that affected by the seasons in the same way that they used to be. They probably have something else going on with them that's very much more internally focused or man-made or about some other drama in their existence. So we really stick to 5-7-5 and 17 syllables total. And then the rest can kind of run wild.
Love it. I'm learning something new. So that's super cool. And I think what's super interesting about what you guys do is really this idea of being able to write poetry to someone, and taking into consideration different things that they may be going through, or, things that you perceive from them. And so I'm sure it varies among the different poets, but for you specifically, what's sort of that process like of being able to meet someone at a party or on the street or whatever that may look like, and then producing a haiku? Are there different things about that person that may stand out to you? Do you have conversations with them to kind of see what to write, or sort of what are the different things that stand out to you in terms of producing that piece of art?
We're all about meeting people where they're at and sharing some love with them. So really at the end of the experience with us, no matter what kind of poem they get, no matter what topic they choose, the desired result is that they are holding a tiny artwork that shows them that they've been seen and that someone cares about them and that they are worthy of receiving a gift with no expectation in return. So a more confident person who already knows what a haiku is could come over to us and just say like, free haiku. All right, write me a haiku about lamps. And we'll be like, great. Like, are you thinking about a specific type of lamp? Are you like a lamp designer? We'll maybe get like 1 or 2 details. And then we'll be like, cool, haiku about lamps. Give me 60 seconds by. And then they're like, yay, thank you so much. And then someone else could come over and actually be like more timid and be like, I don't know what the haiku is. They might feel actually like kind of vulnerable and want to learn, but also be like a little scared or be confused. And so we will have like a more sort of careful and thoughtful interaction with them where we can explain to them what we're doing, why we're doing it, and then learn from them what they might be interested in for their poem topic. So the process for getting the topic it really is about the person and their comfort level. Yeah. And then of course our process begins where we have to then generate an actual poem.
Yeah.
Which that process is unique for every poet. We all have our own approaches and our own styles. Some of our poets, like Eric, for instance, he's very like funny and very witty and very sort of like he has these pithy, wise statements in the form of very simple but very sharp little jokes and statements. So he's kind of like the guru, like the funny guru type. Like we all do a lot more of like mystical and mysterious references, and I'll do things that are a little more artistically daring maybe. But then of course we always want to like bring the level up or down for wherever the person's at.
Yeah.
If you've never heard of a haiku before and you're just like a kid or like an old man and you're like, what's going on? Then we'll write something that's going to be like on your level and not try to like blow your mind with a lot of weird metaphors and shit. Yeah. So the way that we get to the poem is really just going within ourselves. For me, I have to have like 30 seconds of meditation. I look at the person, I listen to them with extreme intent, love, and attention. And then I clear my mind, close my eyes. I don't know if you've seen photos, but like a lot of times people are like capturing photos of me. Like I almost look like I'm praying. I'm like, oh. And then I just go with it. I go with whatever comes first, whatever like clear image or feeling comes.
And I'm sure this is another thing that varies, but sort of what degree of responses have you guys seen to something that isn't normal? Like it isn't something that we get to experience on a daily basis, to have somebody who is giving us a gift, who's saying, I want to see you and know you in this way. And so I'm sure there's probably a degree of responses that you may get to that based on the person.
Yeah, it really runs the gamut. It goes from the like busy executive who's just like has too much FOMO to like not get a poem, and it's just like, cool, I don't regret this, thanks, and just like walks away, and that's awesome. They had like a little surprise in their day. To the person that was like, one person comes to mind. It was a mom in Southern California somewhere, and she was like not about it. She was like, no, thank you. Don't want a poem. And but it was like standing like still kind of nearby and was just like looking like so not even curious. She was like almost like annoyed looking, you know, she was like, what could this be? Like she was perturbed maybe. And we were finally like, hey, like you don't actually have to give a topic if you don't want to. I could just write a poem about how I perceive you and just give you a little something and you don't have to do anything. Would you like that? And she was like, fine, you know, like, oh, okay. So then we wrote it, and it was so simple. It was just, it was interesting because she was wearing like a very sort of utilitarian yoga activewear outfit, but then had these like beautiful natural looking like stone earrings and jewelry. And so I just wrote about that juxtaposition, and she immediately opened up like a midnight orchid or something. It was like, she was like, oh my God, you know me. And like, thank you for noticing my earrings and thank you for this and that. And just like telling us stories about her life and her kids and da, 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 da. And she ended up talking to us for like 10 or 12 minutes. And she never would have, she would have just gone through her day being a little standoffish and skeptical of the world if it wasn't for us daring to just barely push our own comfort and her own comfort just enough so that we could meet somewhere new.
Yeah. And what is like, as a poet, what does that make you feel like, you know, for you in those moments? What do you see as the power of words and specifically poetry?
Well, in my personal case, words are very powerful because I don't really love my ability to illustrate. They're my preferred artistic format, just my most natural form of expression, I guess. I think words are really valuable because, you know, you make a sort of social contract within your society that you're going to all use the same type of words and you're going to be able to communicate, right? And so it's a very basic level to meet someone is like the phenomenon of human language. But then there's also the vast differences between different groups within a society and different societies where they don't even speak the same language at all. So it's a very mystical and notable thing that we share and thing that also can separate us. So to get more to the point of your question, I think that words are the actual unbreakable building block of the society that we've created, and they can be deeply harmful. And you can look at the way that poor use of language has actually caused like deep trauma in our society right now, with looking at our president and the way that he speaks and the words he uses, normalizing hate. And so maybe if you live in a society where you're seeing and feeling more and more hate being transmitted through words, you almost like as a duty have to create more words that can be an antidote to that.
Yeah. I love that. Seeing, a lot of what I've reflected on over the past year is how words or acts of love can actually be forms of resistance, especially to a culture of cynicism and a culture that is very fast moving, like you were saying about the business folks who, they may just be in a rush and are not necessarily in a space where, for any of us, where we may want to be present in those places. I think that as artists, as writers, as poets, we have a great opportunity and ability to be able to, in a way, push back against some of that and show that there is light in the midst of that, and that, there is truly power for people to be seen, to be known. And I'd love just to hear from you, like in your art, in your creativity, is there a moment you can point back to when you felt like sort of that first moment of, whoa, I've actually been seen in this really significant, profound way?
When I was the recipient of a surprise word, that's a rare question for me. This is sort of strange. I'll give you two examples. The first example is a really simple one because I was in Chicago for a performance, and we were just walking around like one of the hipster neighborhoods, and there was a young woman writing on a typewriter. She was like this really bohemian, like kind of nomad, and she was writing poems for donation to help fund like a transcontinental journey of some kind, and was like selling all of her belongings. And so I told her about a problem that I was having. I was having a conflict with someone I have a close relationship with. And she just wrote me this piece of advice that was like totally comforting to me at that moment. I don't even remember clearly what she said. Then she also gave me like a magical stone, which she was really like new agey, but it was just so comforting. It was really, it felt like a little bit of like a salve on a wound or something. Yeah. And then this other time that just came to mind, which is kind of surprising to me why it jumped in my mind. I went to a party once, and this was before I was really an active full-time artist. And there was this performer at the party who was doing like small astrological readings or something. I don't really subscribe to many beliefs along those lines, but I'll try anything whenever. And, he talked to me about like what he saw in me, or like, based on my sign, I'm a Capricorn. My birthday is January 6th. And he said, you struggled so much in your childhood and your young life, and it's part of your destiny to have struggled and like not know what you wanted to do and be, just not have things that easy necessarily on a personal level, but that your destiny in the future is to have like equally as opposite of a future. And that like as an adult, and as you come into your more mature adulthood, you're going to have vast success and luck, and things will get actually easier and easier for you as you go. And that was just a really surprising thing to hear. And it was like so confidence boosting for some reason, because he was like really cool looking and just sounded like so confident and serious about it. And I was just like, awesome. And I've just kept that in the back of my mind for quite some time, and it's been true.
I love that. I think there's I don't know, what I've experienced, at least in this past year or so, of actually embracing being a poet has just been this, I don't know, I think there's a vulnerability that may not even exist just in poetry, but just even in just, the world of an artist. Could you speak to that a little bit, just of how you see vulnerability play into the art that you're creating, as well as the interactions that you get to have with others around that space.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, it's really perfect timing that you're asking me about vulnerability, because I was sort of in denial until yesterday afternoon about how vulnerable I was feeling about this thing that I've been working on for 100 days. I don't know if you've looked at my personal Instagram, but I've been doing a project for literally 100 days now. Yesterday was the 100th day. And every single day I've been researching and writing a poem dedicated to a U.S. senator. Okay. And I've been sharing them online, and it's got some media coverage from CNN and Bustle. And it's been really interesting learning about all of these people that run this country. I've been really shocked to learn some of these things, but I decided that I wanted to do something with the poems at the end, and I put them up for auction yesterday on eBay to benefit a nonpartisan organization that helps women and young girls learn how that they can run for political office. One of the things I learned from doing it was that there's just so few women in government. We're so underrepresented, and every woman, whether they're conservative or liberal, is better at building consensus, better at reaching across the aisle, better at hearing other people's viewpoints. They're just better politicians, and they're not ruining their careers with scandal and abusing people. And not to say that all women are like perfect, but so why is that vulnerability for me? Let me tell you. I realize that this is the first time that I've ever actually put up for sale my own artworks. What we do is people pay us to come to their party and create poetry vibes. Yeah. So we've already kind of fulfilled our contract by the time we arrive, and it's no holds barred, just like creative free for all when we're there. We don't ask anyone to be like, oh, like, how much do you think your poem was worth? Like, it's not part of the equation. And so asking someone to decide what my words are worth and if my project is actually really valuable to other people, I realize that that's really scary. And now I'm super scared.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that is something that I definitely, I feel like I definitely relate with, is just that, I don't know, it is, I think there's a lot of value and something that I love being able to have something that is like, oh, I don't necessarily have the pressure of like needing to like capitalize on this or, have some sort of like financial element. It's
almost a cop out though, if you think about it, because it's so easy to give something away for free. If you're not a selfish person, if you're a loving person, it's almost harder to ask someone to pay.
Yep. Yes. Yes. And that is like, I definitely agree. Like that's where the vulnerability and that fear comes in of like, oh my gosh, like I actually have to like ask somebody to like see the value in this so much that they're willing to give of this thing that we tend to hold so closely. And so, that is, dang. Yeah. I'm with you. I'm with you in that sense. And and just feel a deep sense of where you're coming from with that. Well, I want to just take a few quick seconds just to honor you and thank you so much for just this. I think it's not so much just poetry, but it is creating a space where people, like you said, where they can feel seen, where they can feel known, and hopefully through that be able to gain a better understanding of who they are and their place in the world. And so I am super grateful to have chatted with you today and to be able to just witness this space that you all are creating. And I love how people are getting to just feel a sense of freedom, a sense of just wellness in the midst of that. So thank you so much for who you are and all that you're doing.
And I really respect what you're doing. I love it as well. So I'm glad to connect, and I hope that we get to meet in person someday soon.
Absolutely. Well, last two questions. First one being, what is giving you life right now?
Well, right now at this very moment, what's giving me life is understanding that last night was our last extremely busy night of the holiday season. A huge portion of what we do is corporate holiday parties, and it's just an amazing time of year, and it's just back to back, busy. Yeah. So the week before Christmas slows down significantly because most of the big companies do their parties the week before this week. So last night we had the New York Times and 2 other performances all consecutively. And today is just a beautiful day that I get to talk with people like you and catch up with people I haven't spoken to in 3 weeks. And yeah, so what's giving me life was realizing that we're going into a season where we can be peaceful and introspective and really nurture ourselves and each other.
So good. Well, Lisa, I am so excited for people to be able to follow along with you and all the stuff that Haiku Guys are doing after this. So where can people go to find you, to follow along with you and your work and just how people are being impacted through this project?
The best places to find us are on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, on our website. And, in the media, we get a lot of coverage, or we're getting more coverage, wink, wink. But our website is thehaikuguys.com. And we are at the Haiku Guys on Instagram and Twitter. And, you can just type in my name or the Haiku Guys on Facebook and find us that way. And we have poets across the whole country, so we have people in New York, DC, Austin, LA, San Francisco, Portland, Paris, Montreal. I think I'm missing a couple cities right now as well. But so look for us in real life too, and get in touch if you have an event that you want to try to bring some poetics into.
Cool. I love it. Well, Lisa, I'll be sure to include all those links and everything in the show notes for this episode. And until we meet in person, keep doing what you're doing. I'm super excited to see what's next for you and the Haiku Guys.
Thank you so much, Alex. It was really a pleasure to speak with you.
Today's episode is produced by me, Alex Lewis, and our awesome music was provided by Julius Tunstall. If you haven't yet gone to the Car Window Poetry Facebook page and checked out our new video, Bryson the Three-Legged Dog, definitely go check that out after this episode. It's a little story inspired by a 3rd grader I met during my first ever Car Window Poetry workshop. If you enjoyed today's episode, I encourage you to go to your Apple Podcast app and leave us a 5-star rating and review, as that's a big way more people can learn about the show and be impacted by these conversations. Until next time, you matter, you are enough. Remember these words when times get tough. Thanks for listening.